Hello, my name is Lorraine and I am a psychic and a spiritual medium. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the energy that is currently occurring right now. So we would understand, of course, that the year 2020 has been one of really big change. And I've said before that we are seeing the end of an era. And so from the beginning of 2020, we were faced with the new pandemic, COVID. And the energy that this brought to us as a population, as a collective, was one of fear and uncertainty. And with the isolation that occurred as a result of this pandemic, it caused a lot of introspection. It caused a lot of need to go within and to align oneself with some inner values. And whenever we go within, we grow. Whenever we go within, whenever we connect with our soul, there is growth. And so with this slowdown, each of us has experienced the need to go within. And we can see even further this change that's occurring right now with this great movement that is with peaceful demonstrations, demanding change and reform for systemic racism, for systemic issues. And we can see the need to have change further as a collective. And so when I've spoken about the end of an era that we are witnessing, we can see this change occurring. Well, change is always occurring, except it appears to be always very subtly. We don't recognize this change. We don't see it, except for maybe perhaps with some reflection. And the thing is that energy is always moving. It never stays in one place. And so with that, there's always change that's occurring. It's just we're not always aware of it. And we may think of change as something that would be something on an individual basis. So we as individuals are always changing. We're really always gathering experience and growing as a result. And this is how our soul grows. This is the purpose of our soul, to experience life here in the physical, is to gather more experience, and as a result our soul grows. And we can understand that as humans, as a society, that there has been huge growth in terms of our survival, in terms of our ability to survive, in terms of our technology. And so there's been huge growth in terms of what we see as in the physical. There's been huge growth as to what we see in terms of outside of us. And what has not occurred with the same degree is the internal growth that we have, both as individuals and as a collective. And so we must understand that nothing happens in isolation. As we live in a collective field, the energy of one, the experience of one, it does impact into our field. And then these effects, they come back to us, and then it impacts us also. And so it's almost like this infinity loop, right? The energy goes out and it comes back in. It goes out and it comes back in. And because we're living in this quantum field, it's just we're not really very aware of it consciously all the time because of our limited ability to see everything all at once. But when we go within, and when we start to contemplate, and when we start to have introspection, then we're connecting with our soul's abilities and our soul's gifts. Our soul is always connected to source. Our higher self, otherwise known as our soul, is the part of us that is always connected to God or source or creator. However you see that, there's a part of us that's always connected to the collective and connected to the highest degree of divinity, if you will. And so there's a part of us that always has this wisdom to access, always has this knowledge, always has these abilities. And what happens when we go within and we connect with our soul is that we're able to connect more with our soul's gifts. And with that, these gifts are really gifts, they're virtues that we're able to access, and the virtue of patience and lovingness and kindness and compassion, and all of these virtues that exist because we have come from the same source. And so, as I say, nothing happens in isolation. And so what we're seeing right now is this collective spiritual growth that is now saying that we don't want to have this as status quo anymore. We don't want to have this as part of our collective experience. This is no longer acceptable to us. And how wonderful is that? Because not only have we been faced with this energy of COVID, we're having more energetic changes. And this is really just the tip of the iceberg. And so that what we're witnessing is really, we're just being made aware of what's happening on a much deeper level. But this is happening to a very great degree. It's happening with one of great velocity, so with great speed. There's a big ascension that's occurring right now. There's big spiritual growth that's occurring as individuals and as a collective. And this is why we are seeing the energy, this experience before us right now. This experience of having these mass movements demanding change. And it's really a very powerful thing. And as we're bearing witness to this, we should really be in honor and awe of the change that we are witnessing, because we are aligning ourselves on a spiritual nature. We're aligning ourselves with our souls, with our higher self. We're all ascending. We're all growing. And this is an awesome thing to be able to witness, because, as I said, change is always occurring. We're just not always aware of it, of what's happening. It's almost like change is almost like the current that we don't see in the stream, that it may look like the water is still on top, but there's always this current underneath. And that is usually how change occurs, really slowly and subtly. And before we know it, there's been a change. But it's been occurring for a long while. But now what we're seeing is this great amount of change that's happening at such a rapid pace. And this is all the energy of 2020. So what's happening is that we're tearing down old thought forms. We're tearing down old paradigms. We're tearing down old aspects that no longer serve a purpose for our highest good. And you may say that they never served a purpose for our higher good. But what was occurring is that we were evolving from a lower nature to a higher nature. And so we would understand that human beings have not been the most evolved in terms of their higher natures over time in history. In fact, humans have been very, very barbaric to one another. But we've evolved in terms of our ability to go from subsisting to flourishing more, to being able to provide, to be able to have a certain amount of security physically. And so now what's been happening on a much slower level is this need to grow spiritually, because everything is connected, the physical, the mental, the spiritual, and the emotional, and there has to be growth in all areas. Well, we just haven't grown as a collective spiritually. We've grown in all other ways. And so now we're seeing an explosion of spiritual growth. And we're witnessing this with all of this that we see before us, with this call for change throughout these institutions. Call for change to be able to honor each and every life. And this is aligning ourselves with spiritual values. And it really is an awesome thing to be able to witness this great event. We're witnessing change, and this is going to be the greatest amount of change that the collective has experienced in all of time. The greatest explosion of change in all of human history, in terms of just our growth, in terms of our ability to be able to be more human in our humanity. And so with this, we may also be experiencing a lot of change in our personal lives. We may be experiencing change in terms of the ends of relationships, and there may even be change in the terms of the end of some employment. But what will happen is there will be more opportunity. And this is the old that's being shed away. And it really is to make room for more to come, to make room for more positive to come, because nothing in the universe exists in a vacuum. And there's always more that we're unable to see that is occurring. And we have really only a glimpse of the iceberg through our human consciousness at any time. And this is why it's important to go within, to be able to connect with our soul, because our soul is expansive. Our soul is able to connect, as I said before, with our higher self. And each time we connect with our soul's gifts grow, and we understand more, and we're able to, our soul expands and is able to connect more with its innate wisdom. And then we're able to apply that to our physical experience, which is what's occurring right now. So take a moment to really look to see what's going on around us right now. And there's this huge vibration of change. It is positive. Please do not connect with fear if you are in this flux of change. There will always be sort of this power struggle with sort of good and bad, and that's part of the story. That's part of the journey. However, there is always the light always wins. Light always succeeds, and we are light, and we're going to continue to shine and emanate out. So just be in awe of the change that's occurring, because we are witnessing an explosion of spiritual growth at this time. I thank you very much for listening to me. Once again, my name is Lorraine, and I'm a psychic and a medium, and I wish you very many blessings. Have a good day. Bye for now.